Welcome to Terra Juno Painting Stuff. In this video, we will be creating this 8 by 10 inch oil painting of a farm in Saskatchewan. I am in Fenwood, Saskatchewan, and I'm hoping to paint this little scene. And I'm starting off quite late because I had a little bit of baby magpie drama. It's a baby! Hi, baby! But I'm hoping to get at least a little start on this one. Fenwood is a small rural village in the southeast of Saskatchewan, and as of the 2021 census, it has a population of 42. I only saw 7. Hey! It seemed like a good a place as any to stop on the way to Manitoba, and I was able to find a place at Similar Adventures, a neat little homemade family fun park that accepted dogs. I really wanted to capture the color of the Saskatchewan prairies. There were lots of interesting compositions around Fenwood. I was really interested in this giant pile of iron pieces from the railroad. How much do you think this is worth? But I was won over by this scene of a field with an old barn in the distance. It was past 9 p.m. by the time I got out there. My plan was to get in a drawing and maybe my initial color wash before the light was gone. I'm underneath a tree. It's kind of nice. I feel like the sun is setting though. I made this little pochade box especially for this trip. It weighs only about 3 pounds and it fits in a normal size backpack. I made it out of a pine 2x4 and I used a table saw to cut the grooves for the pallet and also to shape the wood and make the slats for the top and bottom. The pallet even slides out to the left for lefties like me. That's the wonderful thing about making your own equipment, is you can tailor it for your own needs. I'm excited to see how it'll work out. I've got a bunch of viewfinders here, so I need to decide what composition I want to go with, which I kind of like this one here. I think that frames it nicely. I have a little, I think this is an 8 by 10. Oh, but that's the magpie. Oh no, I don't know what that is. What is that? So many cool birds. Anyhow, I'm going to grid it off and then lay out my palette. Hopefully get the drawing in, and then I'm gonna come back in the morning and see what kind of light I have. Here's my little drawing. There's my scene. There's my little guard dog. Hey, Emmy Bear. Unfortunately for Emily, Fenwood already had a guard dog. This guy is like the town guard dog. Hey! Hi! He really wanted to be her friend, but she gave him the snub. The poor little guy kept following us around at a distance, but Emily wouldn't even look at him. Unless it was to drive him away. Very nice to him. Emily looks like a giant next to this dog. And here's my palette. I have cadmium yellow light, permanent green, azo green, fast dry white by Camblin, titanium white, burnt sienna, yellow ochre, ivory black, alizarin crimson, cadmium red medium, and terra rosa. And I've designed it so they fit under here so I could slide this out while there's painting. I almost forgot Prussian blue. It was actually under my foot. It fell on the ground. I'm going to try to sneak in my first wash tonight. I like to start with a wash of color that is a bit darker, warmer, and a bit more saturated in color than what I intend the final color to be. I thin this layer down with a bit of solvent and medium made from Damar varnish and walnut oil. I'll be working into this layer wet and wet with lighter and darker colors tomorrow to expand my tonal range and brighten up the colors. Sometimes I leave the wash showing to get a bit of texture or color variation in the final painting. Saskatchewan is very flat and dry. It's a bit of a shock coming from our mountainous blue and green British Columbia, and I found the different terrain, vegetation, and colors fascinating. The atmosphere is so different here. There is a bit of smoke in the air from the forest fires that are still raging up north, which is usually a British Columbia problem. But this year, Saskatchewan and Manitoba are being hit by fire and smoke and evacuations. The colors are very delicate, even with the slight brown tinge of the smoke. There's kind of a relentless wind blowing here. And yeah, I'm not sure what happens when it gets to be nighttime here. I feel like there's probably a lot of wild animals. It eventually got a little bit too dark and cold to work, so I had to put it away for the evening. Well, this is where I'm gonna have to leave it. Somehow in that short time I managed to get white all over myself. So I'm gonna get cleaned up. It's the next day and we're back. There is a relentless cold wind blowing. It's already given my painting some texture. The wind had blown my wet painting face down in the grass, so I had to do a bit of repair work before starting again. Life centers on planting, harvesting, and mowing here. There are miles of fields with rows of crops starting to peek through the dry stubs of last year's crop. The air is scented with silverberry that is interrupted by the occasional hint of smoke. I'm mixing a bit of black, terra rosa, and Prussian blue into the sky color to create the distant trees. I like to start with the distant colors and increase the saturation in the visual plane when I have sort of a smoky, misty atmosphere. My hands were freezing. Luckily, I found a pair of gloves in my plein air bag. My hands were too frozen to paint this barn, so I tried using pencil lines and scratching the lines in with a skewer. Well, this'll have to do. It even got too cold for Emily. She sat and guarded for a while, but I eventually had to put her inside. Hi, Bunny. Are you warmed up now? I decided to leave out the shrub on the grass. I love the patterns of the troughs in the field with the old crops and the patterns left on the grass by the mower. For the grass in the foreground, I'm using Prussian blue, white, yellow ochre, and either azo green to add a yellow tint or permanent green to cool it down. And there it is. It was a difficult one with all the different pale colored grasses, but I'm fairly happy with the way it turned out. I'm gonna give you a little signature. Overall, I was pretty happy with the way this pochade box worked out, and I'm excited to keep using it. You can see in the foreground where I've left a little bit of my wash that contained more azo green and yellow ochre than the colors I put over top. And I like to do this just to add texture, especially to an area that you don't really want to add a whole bunch of detail to, but you also want to create a little bit of interest with your paint strokes. Thank you so much for joining me for this plein air adventure. I hope you have a great week, and I hope you find something beautiful, and I hope you don't freeze.